We're going to start. If you grab your tacos, coffee, get up. It's very informal, and we'll get a chance to. The search committee got a chance to ask all these questions and to hear their life story. And I thought it'd be great for this congregation to hear about Joe and Rebecca and who they are and their ministry together, and why she likes him.
I'm still asking. Yeah.
Let me pray for us. Lord, we give you thanks for your lavish, magnificent love over us, and the calling of Joe and Rebecca to Christ Church here in San Antonio. And Lord, bless them, watch over them, and we're excited to hear their life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, thanks for being here. I'm so glad to get to spend some time in this kind of an informal context to share a little bit more of our story, our background. For the next 4 weeks, you'll have different subjects to kind of talk about with me. So, you don't have to ask all your questions at once. I think there's going to be, different, this is more personal, like Becca and I's story, a bit more of that. And then in the coming weeks, we'll do things like, certain questions about, my calling, a sense of worship practices that I'm used to and what we're going to do in the coming years, things like that I know some of you probably are curious about. So just as you think about this time, this is how it's organized. Okay, so just a little bit about me, and then Becca's going to share a little bit about her, and we'll kind of tell you about how we met and things of that nature. But I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I was the baby of 3. My parents, dad is a mortgage banker. My mom is a nurse, and grew up in a lovely and wonderful home. I was baptized and raised in a Lutheran church, and had a fairly, I call it a sweet relationship with God that was not developed. But I always describe my story as I think I've shared already in my first sermon, as a prodigal story, where God, the hound of heaven, haunted me as soon as I left home. But I knew enough. I had enough catechesis, enough of a sense that God was real in my life as a little kid, a real sense of His grace to me. If you know the kind of Lutheran tradition, you get pounded on the head with the law, and you also get to hear of God's grace. And I kind of was properly catechized in that tradition. So I dealt with a lot of guilt, and I also experienced something of God's mercy and grace, and that was real. We just kind of 30,000 foot view. When I was in middle school, my parents had a bit of a challenge and went through a separation, and there was some instability in our home. And that really kind of, if you've been through anything like that, or have seen friends or experienced that yourselves, you know that that's kind of destabilizing for your life. And so I was looking for stability in any place I could find it, and I happened to be a pretty good athlete. And so I found my stability in the sports that I played and the teams that I was on. And sometimes those places are not the best places to put all of your stability. And so I was a great lacrosse player. If you know anything about the lacrosse community, it is a work hard, play hard environment. And I just went all in. And so I had a lot of fun, worked really hard, though ended up earning I was kind of like a Rudy kid that wanted to play lacrosse at the University of Virginia when I was 6th grade, and it happened. And by the grace of God, I earned a scholarship my junior year and accepted that and went to UVA. Dream came true. Everything on the surface was, thriving. My freshman year, was a member of the undefeated national championship team. I got to play. It was, kind of doing all the right things. Socially, academically, it was going well, but I really didn't like myself very much because the sacrifices you have to make to do that, and the sacrifices that I made were kind of connected to my own relationship with the Lord. And so I really just full stop. My nickname my freshman year was Joe College. So you kind of get a sense as to what, different generations have different characters they're trying to be. Some of you, it was John Belushi, and as mine was Van Wilder. It was like there were just different versions of the college frat daddy that I was very much animated to be at that season in my life. And yet, if you've been in those places, you also realize that, when you look at yourself, I was kind of having a bit of an existential crisis of like, I don't like myself at all. And this is not who I want to become. And those are the kind of hound of heaven moments, the kind of experience of God's haunting grace where you kind of remember who you are. And I didn't realize how far I'd left from my father's home, so to speak, in the story of the prodigal son, until you have some of those moments. And so I had a good coach friend of mine who was a young life leader and in high school, and he convinced me to spend my summer after freshman year at Saranac Lake in upstate New York to work at a young life camp. And he told me, he bribed me into the, work on the dock with a bunch of boats, and there were a bunch of young women there, and I was like, sounds great. And I showed up, truthfully hungover and regretting whether I wanted to be there, and the Lord really met me there with His mercies, and my life has been utterly transformed. That was 2006, and I've been on a very different trajectory since that moment. And I'll let Becca share a little bit about her upbringing and childhood faith.
Mine is less interesting, but mine is more like just a steady direction. I was blessed to be brought up by parents who love the Lord. They met through Campus Crusade staff training, and immediately, I think they got married after 6 months or something crazy. But they went on staff, and so that was kind of the culture of their marriage, was just ministry life. So I never saw it coming, but it is funny to be now in a ministry relationship as well. But it really formed a lot of my upbringing. I was one of 4 kids in Virginia, Williamsburg, Virginia, and I'm an oldest child. I was very typical, kind of straight arrow, wanted to do the right thing, and church was home for me. It was my family. We didn't live near family at all because my parents had moved there to do ministry and then just never left. So the church, our church was a church plant, non-denominational, and then over my childhood, it really grew. So now it's, you would never know it was a church plant at that time. But when I was a kid, it was in a school gym that we rented, and everybody knew everybody. And I have such happy, positive experiences with church. And it was home, it was family. It was where I felt a lot of belonging. And so I'm really thankful for that, and just keep going in the years. And there were mentors through the church or family, people that felt like family, and my parents, just really faithful disciplers, I guess, of us as kids. And of course, we all have our squabbles and bumps. Nothing's perfect, but I look back just with a lot of gratitude. There were a lot of significant moments growing up where faith kind of became more mine, right? You're steeped in the waters. What's the phrase about a frog in a pot, or the fish in the water? You don't know what is normal until I got older, and there were significant moments for me where God became more personal, and but just a constellation of mentors around me that have shaped me. And college, I went to UVA. That's fast forward. That's where we met. Sneak peek, but my friends actually were all from Texas. It was so funny. All these full circle moments. My freshman year roommate was from
Texans, you
Dallas.
get your little hooks into us.
Yeah. So there I was in Virginia, suddenly connected to all these Texans. But one of them, who was living in Dallas at the time, her father had founded a church in our college town. So they said, well, we have an upperclassman that has a car and is giving us a ride to church. Would you want to come? And I said, sure. What's the name of it? It was Presbyterian. So I happily went there and just kind of evolved into a Presbyterian because it was where my friends went and a car could take me there. So I went from non-denominational to Presbyterian. And then where should I stop to
Yeah, we'll get to the
converge
calling.
the stories? Yeah.
So we'll get into Episcopalian, because I once was a Presbyterian
Okay.
minister at one point, but that'll be another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Becca and I met through mutual friends, those Texans who are now in Houston, but they're from Dallas. They introduced us. He was one of my roommates. He was a track and field decathlon champion for the ACC, and her roommate. And we, I had that kind of coming back to Jesus moment, and I always laugh because if Becca had met Joe College, there's no chance we would have been a thing. And so I came back after my freshman year, and we became friends. She thought I was a transfer because she had not met me, and we had very different circles, as you might imagine, given the stories that you've just heard. And so, I developed some really meaningful friendships in the circle that Becca was running with. And so we just kind of were friends for a year. I remember feeling like, I'm not going to get involved with I just need to figure out how to walk with Jesus for a season. And until her fourth year, she's a year older than I am. And I was like, oh, this is it, or it's never going to happen, because she's going to graduate, and I've got a thing for this one. And so, I guess a year and a half after we had met or so, I asked you out, and it was one of those things where because I had been doing so much internal work and relational repair in my life, I had put a lot of thought into whether or not I wanted to ask Becca out on even the first date, and I felt like I was ready to marry her by the time I asked her out.
First date.
Actually, and so there was a lot of catching up that she had to do, a lot of convincing, but I pretty much knew right away that I wanted to marry Becca, and it took Becca a couple years. So
I'm really glad it happened. For the record.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we dated even long distance. She graduated after college, had already determined before we started dating that she wanted to do missions in Nicaragua.
I had done some spring break service trips with a group from our school that was also connected to my home church that was working at an orphanage in Nicaragua, and I just felt this sense of calling. It wasn't this voice out of the sky, but it was just kind of I think I'm supposed to come back here. And I was trying to figure out what to do after graduation, and this was before we were dating. And I just found a group of missionaries that were starting a missions base in Granada, Nicaragua, and just went for it. So it was really fun. It was a year, and then by the time we were dating, I was like, sorry, you're kind of late on the scene. I'm leaving, And, but we dated long distance. Actually, in the process of moving, I refound the bundle of letters that we hand wrote. I mean, this is I'm so thankful we had that season. I mean, we would write 12-page letters or something. I was very bored at night. So I had a lot to say, but
and I was hopeless without her. So
But those are a real treasure to have that. So anyway, then that was about a year for me, or a little less, like a school year, and then moved back and got married.
Yeah, June 6th, so this coming week. We should have actually had our blessing.
I know, Denton was
You can maybe pray a blessing for us. We have our 15-year wedding anniversary this coming week. So it's been really an incredible adventure marrying this one, and just the sense of, just so you get to know us as a couple. I mean, we've been in ministry together, and that's very much how we imagine this. I know I'm the only one called to be your rector, and she's not officially titled anything, and nor does that, nor do I want you to expect everything on her, but there is a sense in which there is a real teamwork to our ministry. We did campus ministry together after we got married. She's trained, at least has her degree in counseling, and may one day come back to that work, and is just an incredible minister of the gospel as a layperson in her own right, a great evangelist, and if I can say so. So there's so much about doing life with this one here that is incredible, an incredible gift to me as a human, and also as a dad and a priest. So maybe we can pause there. I don't know if there are questions that you guys want to ask.
Children.
Oh,
you want to know about our children? How about that? We have. Do you want to take this one?
I think we're so chronological. It's they're not here yet.
Yeah.
Not married.
Yes, we did get married. We have 3 kids, 2 boys and then a girl. Denton is 9, Lewis is almost 7, and Florence will be 3 in July.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun. They're hopefully still on the premises of the church.
Catherine?
I actually don't know where they are, but they're full of donuts, I'm sure, and yeah, loving it.
Yeah, I mean, about them a little bit, Denton, our oldest, is he's a very athletic, competitive kid. He's playing lacrosse this spring. He wants to play soccer or football in the fall. He's just really engaged in that way. So is Lewis. He's becoming our, he's like our baseball kid, maybe. We'll see. Baseball, I've been, I know this is a big baseball area, but I'm a northern lacrosse player. It's kind of hard for me, mostly because it's like 2 hours out in the scorching heat all summer. You play all the time. Lacrosse, 16 games. That's it. That's all you got. So we're trying to work that out. But I'm sure our kids will be lured into that. And then Florence is just a spark plug and just so much fun. She doesn't know a stranger. She'll probably come up to you, crawl in your lap, and boss you around. So anyways, yeah, question?
A question.
Hold on one second.
Oh, we're going to do a microphone.
Oh, okay.
So we can put it on
I
the.
don't have to talk too loud. One thing I was interested in is if you could take us through your background from college to the seminary to,
Sure.
Because you said you were in the Lutheran Church, and I think I've heard from people that you've had a connection with, I think, the Methodist Church or the Presbyterian Church. And that one of my friends told me that you went to a super sermon school and that you had learned from some of the best speakers from the pulpit in your education. So I just wanted to hear from college to San Antonio, Texas, and what's your favorite things about being a priest and a rector? And, and what are the things that you have to do that are not really your favorite things?
Well, there's a lot of questions there. I'll share. So similar to, I became Presbyterian by circumstance. I started dating a Presbyterian, and she was Presbyterian because her friends were, and I wanted to go where she was in church. But those Presbyterians, they loved me really well, and they discipled me in the Lord really well. And so I had great mentors in that time after I kind of started my return to the faith, and they all were in this Presbyterian church in Charlottesville. The campus minister that I worked with was an elder at that Presbyterian church. I then ended up working at that church under the senior pastor, doing an apprenticeship under him. And so when asking, where do you go to seminary? I want to be like you guys. The sense of calling was developing in my own life. They sent me to a Presbyterian seminary. So I went to Covenant Theological Seminary in St. Louis, Missouri. I will say,
some of you may know Tom and Tara Gibbs. He founded Redeemer Presbyterian. He's now the president there. Just a fact.
Yeah,
at
that's
our
true.
seminary in St. Louis.
That's true. I'll say this about my calling. I was a 4th year at UVA, and I really was not in any way expecting or planning to be in ministry. My dad was in business, and I thought I'd probably do that. I thought perhaps education, but one of my friends and teammates committed suicide. It was a really awful experience to go through. And I remember a time in prayer while actually visiting Becca in Nicaragua where I just had a real sense of God's voice. I mean, one of the more, I guess, charismatic moments of my own prayer life, if you would put it in those terms, where I just sensed God's real drawing me and calling me into a very specific mission, which was to lead a small group Bible study for my teammates in the wake of that death. Well, that became a very fruitful ministry. Several of my, 3 of my teammates kind of became Christian or came back to the Lord, and about 8 or 9 of them started coming regularly to process their grief and explore questions of life and death. And that campus minister, who was the Presbyterian elder, said, this isn't typical, especially in the lacrosse community. You should really think about doing this full time. And he invited me to come on staff with him. And that's how I kind of accepted that first sense of a calling. And that developed in the community of the church. And the church started to see those gifts and speak into them and to say, you should really think about going to seminary. You've got an aptitude for this. Do you like it? And I said, yeah, I really do. And so those things developed, as most callings do. I ended up going to Covenant Theological Seminary. It is a very good preaching school. It's a particular preaching school. I think, you'll see, though, it's shaped me significantly. Accepted a call after graduating at Covenant to be a curate and an assistant pastor at Resurrection Brooklyn Church, which is now Christ the King Anglican in Brooklyn, New York, which is a daughter church of Redeemer Presbyterian Church, if you're familiar with that, which is Tim Keller's ministry. And so spent time in the soil of a very secular context, doing mission work, church planting. We started a church that was, much of the events ran through our, 750 square foot apartment, which was a 4th-floor walk-up overlooking the BQE, and I paid more for that than I do for my home here in San Antonio. It's like one of those crazy places to live, but incredible environment to really develop a sense of pastoral ministry, especially to a working class that is dealing with cross pressures of secularism that are so intense. And so the questions that you have to ask about your faith in a place like New York City it's a wonderful environment for you to learn how to preach and learn how to do ministry in general. And so I loved that environment. I don't know if I'm answering all the questions. I'm kind of going on a rabbit trail. But there's a longer story about how I became an Episcopal priest, and I think we'll pick that up on a different time. That'll be another time, right, Karen? Next Sunday. So I'll just put a foot. Things I like to do in ministry. I mean, I love to preach. I love to meet with people. I love to host people. Becca and I do a lot of hospitality together. At one point, I really thought I was going to do a PhD. Did another academic degree at Princeton Seminary with that in mind, and thought maybe I'd do some teaching and writing. The primary sense of my calling has always been as a shepherd. I'm a relational shepherd. And so I didn't think that would be the best use of time and resources to deter me away from the primary sense of my vocation. And so, but that there is a part of me that very much loves the academic, the rigor, the writing, the research. So that's not absent in me, it's just not primary to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joe and Becca, a question for each of you. Becca, you first. What was the moment that you knew you wanted to marry Joe College? and Joe, fortunately being on the search committee, we got to know your wife and what a joy that was. What was it about her that made you say, I'm going to marry her?
Mm-hmm. For me, it was his earnestness and humility mixed with drive. Just those character qualities, the combination was really something to behold. And at points to be the object of, the drive to marry me. I mean, really, it really felt like that. I was like, whoa. It was very obvious at the beginning that he was further down that road than me. And at times I was kind of whoa, we're just meeting, but over time, just the tenacity mixed with humility and just very earnest and desiring to relate, just among a million other things. But those are the first traits that come to my mind. And there were just significant moments in our dating relationship where I felt like this is the kind of person that I could do life with and that I would want fathering children, Lord willing. And anyway. Yeah.
It's turned out all right.
It's turned out.
I mean, Becca's way of relating to people has always been attractive to me. I mean, she's quick to make a connection with anybody she speaks to, and is eager to kind of draw people out in really beautiful ways. She's got an incredible sense of humor, and it takes a second for you to learn this about her, but she always surprises people by how funny she is, actually.
No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, when you're looking for a spouse, you want someone who's going to, a mentor of mine was like telling me, he goes, a good wife just makes life better, just better. And life has been so much better with Becca in it than with her out of it. And it is, she's just an incredible joy for me. So we're, 15 years. Not as long as 56, but anyways.
Probably one or two more questions.
What do you do in your free time, each of you? Hobbies, that's it's hard, but.
Joy.
You go first.
So, I mean, I love to do a lot of things, but most of my time is absorbed by children. If you're in a season of life, like my free time is actually going to games with our kids and taking them to their various events. But if I actually have free time, it is I'll be at the climbing gym. I'm a big boulder rock climber, and so you guys have a great gym here, which is I'm already a member, and that is really fun. I love to fly fish. I love anything outdoors, basically. I would love to be outdoors, and I hear we're only 2.5 hours from the beach, so something like that. So and I've heard you can fly fish on the Gulf too. So anyone does that and knows what they're doing, I'd love to go with you. So
this question's so hard for me. I don't know. This life stage is so consuming with the kids, but if I recall, I do like to run. That is a sanity saving kind of hobby.
Yeah.
So it's like necessity and enjoyment. I don't do it as much as I used to, but outdoors activity, that kind of thing. I love to read. I love to just be with friends. Is that a hobby? I've never felt like I have a big hobby, but I really am oriented around relationship and doing things with people that I love. Yeah.
With college football season approaching, who is your favorite college football team? Your prediction for the first game of the season?
Can I do that? Is that a thing? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm an Ohio State fan. The winners of those games have had very fruitful seasons. So I'm not. I was at the 2005 game when Vince Young, came back and beat Ohio State. So I am from Columbus. My mom went to Ohio State. I grew up going to all the games. I was at the UT Ohio State game this past the Cotton Bowl or whatever they called it, the semifinal. Sorry. It was a great game though. So.
We still love you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? One more.
Got one in the back. Wendell.
Can you share your children's middle name and how you came up with it?
Oh, so sweet. Thank you. Wendell asked, can you share our children's middle name and how did we come up with them? Each of our child is named after a member of our family, and they also have a Christian, name. And so Denton is my grandfather's first name and my middle name. And he's a person who's gone on to be with the Lord, but has always had a profound impact on me. His middle name is James, named after James the Lesser, the author of the book of James, which is the New Testament book of wisdom. And we thought for our firstborn son, we wanted in our prayer, each of those names were kind of prayers for them, is that they would be, he would be a person of wisdom. And Louis is named after Becca's dad and grandfather, spelled L-O-U-I-S, not Louis, but Louis. Louis Dewey, we know, but it was the risk that we were willing to take for the sake of honoring Becca's grandfather and dad. and his middle name is Benedict. His due date was the feast day of Benedict of Nursia, who is I've observed a Benedictine kind of rule of life in many respects for for about the last 20 years or so, and also. We thought a second-born child, typically, if the pattern holds, might need a little bit more structure and order. And so we figured that would be our prayer for him. And then Florence is named after Becca's grandmother, who's also just this beautiful and vibrant woman from Birmingham. Oh, she lived most of her life in Birmingham, Alabama. And we also went to Florence and fell in love with that city, and we thought, we can name them after two things. And her middle name is Ruth, so Florence Ruth, and our prayer is that she would cast her lot with the people of God like Ruth.
One more.
One final quick question. Do you both have your parents still living?
Yes.
Thankfully, yes. Mine are still in Virginia. They're actually going to come visit next week, so I think they will be here on a Sunday. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and my parents as well. They're both in Columbus. Just because I briefly brought it up, and this is also recorded, there's a really happy story with my parents. They went through their separation, which did lead to a divorce in 2009, but in 2014 they remarried each other, there's a lot more to that story. I'm just so proud of their story, but it is one of the most tangible expressions of grace and reconciliation in our family's life, and in ways in which I've seen God act in a profound way. And so they're happily married in Columbus, Ohio, and they will certainly come down, I'm hoping, for the month of February. So.
That's great. Thank you all. We could go on and on. We just got here Friday evening. And if you can imagine, 3 kids, moving, unpacking, all that kind of stuff. So continue to pray for them. Help out in any way you can. That'd be great. I know they're going to go to family camp with a lot of other people coming up. So eat a lot of fried shrimp, eat a lot of bacon, unlimited bacon, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you all for being here. We're going to do these for the next 3 more Sundays, okay? Thanks.
Thanks, guys.